YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. By reminding you, we have a live show coming up at 8 p.m. Friday evening, the third day of March. So if you're available here on this channel, I do the weekend review, and it has a chat room. Fun last week, so if you're available, please join us. There are 13 articles in this episode. This is all political news articles that I have gathered up. The URLs are in the description of this video for your convenience if you want to do any research on them. The first one here is off of Liberty Writers News, and it says, breaking, the Hillary staffer that mocked a Navy SEAL widow news. President Donald Trump's recognized Karen Owens during his speech last night to Congress. William Ryan Owens, was shown an immense amount of appreciation during his speech to Congress. The applause lasted for several minutes. Not everyone was touched, though. One jerk, an idiot, and accused Trump of using her as a prop. Democrats are downright disgusting. It's Dan Grillo, and there's a tweet here that he put out that says, sorry, Owens' wife, you're not helping yourself by standing there and clapping like an idiot. Trump just used you. Disgusting, disgusting. Look how karma just bit him back. Grillo is a Hillary volunteer who worked for the Chicago-based Liberty Advisors Group. The company has confirmed that he is no longer with the company. Grillo's profile on the site has been deleted, and the company has confirmed employees an inappropriate tweet or family. Here's their statement. The comments in the tweet were intended to cause hurt and anger generated. They were unacceptable to us, and the individual who issued the tweet is no longer affiliated with Liberty, the statement said. Goodbye, Dan Grillo. Missed. It just goes to show what Democrats really think about our armed forces. Our Hillary Clinton for good. That I have for you is also off of Liberty Writers. For the hamster. Oops, the DNC leader Tom Perez attacks President Trump on Twitter. That's it. Spin this up here. Here we go. Democrats voted last week on a new chairperson for Democratic Party. The vote came down to Keith Ellison, a Muslim anti-Semite, and establishment bigot who believes that black people should have more rights than white people. The DNC, Tom Perez, and our president shared his feelings on their decision. Tweet says, congratulations to Thomas Perez, who has just been named chairman of the DNC. I could not be happier for him or for the Republican Party. Attempted to be a tough guy and shot back with, call me Tom and don't get too happy. I and Democrats united across the country. Immediately after Perez sent the tweet, something unexpected happened. Democrats came to Trump's defense. Trump didn't even have to respond. Democrats attacked Perez before Trump could say a word. Perez was bombarded with tweets like, yes, I'm sure Trump is shocked by the corporate cash in class last strategy again. It says, election of Tom Perez is the final straw. I'm out of the party. Something new. It's 2017, not 1985. The Dems. And there's more tweets. That says the hashtag Dem exit blew up as members of the Democrat Party began leaving in droves. It looks like Democrats just. I personally thank the Democrats for making it so much easier for Republicans to win the coming elections. It's off of BizPac Review. It says anger escalates over CNN's town hall featuring Dem rats Graham and McCain day after Trump's speech. McCain and Lindsey Graham took part in town hall hosted by CNN and gave Democrats plenty of fodder to keep bashing President Donald Trump over contact between his campaign and Russia. The Republican lawmaker spoke approvingly of Trump's address to Congress, with McCain saying the president laid out a positive agenda received by the American people. Graham added, "We need more of that guy and less of the tweeting guy." But that didn't last long, and when it came to Russia, the two war hawks were generous. Amid reports, Jeff Sessions spoke with the Russian ambassador to the United States, Sergei Kislyak, on occasions last year. Graham said his wrongdoing, Sessions should recuse himself from deciding whether to prosecute. Conservative radio talk show host Laura Ingraham, the Trump supporter, called bogus. Story about Sessions meant optimism surged following real Donald Trump joined Sessions' speech. If there were contacts between Trump and the campaign, they may be legitimate, they may be okay, Graham said. I want to know what happened between the Trump campaign, the Clinton campaign, and the Russians. He says if Jeff Sessions spoke with Russian diplomat, then we need a special prosecutor. It is courtesy of CNN Politics. Graham criticized Trump over his relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. When it comes to Russia, he has a blind spot, he said. The bottom line is that Putin, democracy everywhere. First, the threat to democracy Graham spoke of. No doubt what Russians tried to do to our election could have destroyed democracy, McCain said. And that's why we've got to pay a hell of a lot more attention to the Russians and the things they're doing in Europe right now. They're trying to determine the outcome of the French election, and they're using cyber. It was clear that he not only supports the sanctions imposed on Russia by former President Barack Obama, he'd like to see more. I want the Russians to be sanctioned more for interfering in our elections, he said. At one point, the town hall became somewhat of a love fest when Graham, about his friendship with McCain, bringing a tear to the eye of both men. His friends, he loves his country, and he has to stand up for his country. So be it, Graham said of his colleague. He would die for his country. I love him to death. And Never Trumpers praised the pair. If the town hall generated any tears on social media, they were likely tears of frustration at the Republican senators for playing right into the hands of the president's adversaries. Responses from Twitter, and I'll just grab a couple of these. Franken had the same talking points as McCain and Graham. Town hall collusion with Democrats. Here, CNN parading the two dinosaurs the American people rejected and couldn't care less if they shows how out of touch they are. CNN. And another one says CNN town hall, not surprised as they will feel right at home on CNN. All of you can pull that article up and take a look at those. Here is off of ibtimes.com. And if we can get it to come up here, you have to goose the hamster. Nap. There we go. Jeff Sessions press conference quotes Attorney General recuses himself from Russia investigation. Video in this, if you want to pull it up, take a look at that. That's messing my hamster up. We'll get that out of the way. It says Attorney General Jeff Sessions recused himself Thursday from an investigation into contacts between the campaign and Donald Trump and Russian officials. Sessions held a press conference Thursday addressing the revelations. Well, and then the page jumps. Hang on. That video trying to mess me up here. Press conference on Thursday addressing the revelations that he held discussions. Come on. Scroll up. Russian ambassador during the 2016 election campaign. Tweets from ABC. Attorney General Sessions to recuse himself from any existing future probes related to any presidential campaigns. Higher here. Earlier in the day, President Donald Trump was asked whether Sessions should recuse himself from overseeing an investigation into contacts between the Trump campaign and Russian officials. I don't think so, Trump responded. While touring the the USS Gerald R. Ford, the newest American aircraft, added that he had total confidence in Sessions, saying he wasn't aware Senator from Alabama had held discussions with the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak. And up a little bit more, but Republicans included House Oversight Committee Chairman Representative Jason Chavez, Republican of Utah, began Thursday in calling for Sessions to recuse himself. His Judiciary Committee confirmation hearing, Sessions was asked Al Franken what he would do if he learned that anyone from the Trump campaign had communicated with Russian officials during the campaign. I'm not aware of any of those activities, he responded. Called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, have communication with Russians. The key points. Number one, he insisted he held no conversations about the campaign. Says, let me be clear, I never had any meetings with Russian operatives or Russian intermediaries about the Trump campaign. Number two, Sessions claims he did not lie under oath. My reply to the question of Senator Franken was honest and correct as I understood it at the time. Number three, himself, but not because of the relations. I had involvement with the campaign. I should not be involved with any campaign investigation. I believe those recommendations are right and just. Recused myself in the matter of the Trump campaign. Discussed everything but the election with the Russian ambassador. Well, it was just normal things. We listened to the ambassador, what his concerns might be. We talked a little bit about terrorism, I recall, and somehow the subject of the I don't recall any specific political discussion, if you want to see that. And number five, he admits he should have given different answer at his confirmation hearing. I should have slowed down, he said, but I did meet one Russian official a couple of times. That would be the ambassador. He can't recall if he met with any other Russian officials during his campaign. I don't recall many. It's possible. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, but I don't recall. The article is off of BizPack Review. Fight, Trump supporters dig in against Sessions' charges as spokeswoman clarifies Russian contacts. Already, it's not a conspiracy. Attorney General Jeff Sessions met with Russian ambassador before last year's presidential election when he was still U.S. Senator, his spokeswoman confirmed to reporters. This news has sent reporters into a tizzy and lawmakers into a rage with claims that he misled the Senate during his confirmation process, according to NBC News. And there is a clip here of that if you want to take a look at it. It says, spokeswoman Sarah Isgur Flores confirms a report from the Washington Post that Sessions met with Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak, but added that he did nothing to mislead the Senate. She said that he was asked only about communications between Russia and the Trump campaign. His meeting with Kislyak was were relative to his duties in the Senate Armed Services Committee and were among 25 meetings with many foreign ambassadors. Democrat lawmakers, however, are not mollified and are calling for the former Alabama senator's figurative head on a platter, NBC News reported. They raced to call for Sessions to resign or at least to recuse himself from the official investigation of alleged ties between Russian officials and President Donald Trump's campaign. As Attorney General, Sessions oversees the FBI, which is investigating alleged connections between Moscow and the president's successful election campaign. Perhaps the larger question is, where are the media outlets getting their information about meetings between Trump administration officials and those of Russia? This is especially relevant in light of Michael Flynn's resignation as the president's first national security advisor after reports emerged that he had contact with the Russian ambassador. One offered this explanation. There's a tweet that says, as with General Flynn, his minions are behind this bogus attack on Jeff Sessions. Trump must fight back against Obama. Conservative author and talk radio show Laura Ingraham also thought the timing of the timing of the Sessions story was suspect. Her tweet says, timing of this bogus story about Sessions meant to blunt national optimism surge following real Donald Trump joint session speech. Reports first emerged during the middle of last month that former President Barack Obama was engaged in an underground campaign, a massive shadow government to undermine the Trump administration. Isn't in the Attorney General's playbook. I have never met with any Russian officials to discuss issues of the campaign, he said in a statement released Wednesday night. I have no idea what this allegation is about. It is false. The next one I have is off of Liberty Writers. And it says, service that cleared Jeff Sessions' name. Look who really lied about Russian ambassador. Democrats are going after Jeff Sessions for doing his job and meeting with Russian ambassador while part of the Armed Services Committee. One Democrat who railed against Sessions was Senator Claire McCaskill, Democrat of Missouri. McCaskill made it sound as if members of the Armed Services Committee would never meet with an ambassador from Russia, so Sessions' meeting must have been in connection to the Trump campaign. McCaskill tweeted attacking Sessions, saying, I've been on the Armed Services Committee for 10 years. No call or meeting with Russian ambassador ever. Ambassadors, members of foreign relations com. It says, that sounds good and all, but as it turns out, it's a complete lie. McCaskill met with the Russian ambassador in 2013 and 2015. And here's tweets. The one from January of 2013 says, off to meeting with Russian ambassador, upset about arbitrary, cruel decision to end all U.S. adoptions, even those in process, from Claire McCaskill. Another one from Claire McCaskill in 2015, of August 2015, says, today calls with British, Russian, and German ambassadors regarding Iran deal. There's even a photo of the meeting. Have some nerve to attack Sessions when they did even worse. We are witnessing a political witch hunt against our new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. The Democrats are dying to connect President Trump to Russia in any way they can. Desperate. There's no basis to suggest Sessions committed any crime at all for doing his job as senator on the Armed Services Committee. This is just another attempt to delegitimize Trump's presidency, and it's disgraceful. Shame on these Democrats for attempting to ruin the career of a great man. They just can't accept the fact that they lost the election, and they're using every dirty tactic they can think of to take this administration down. The next story I have for you is off of Western Journalism, and it says, Trump links Obama to anti-Trump protest, White House leaks. Who earlier suggested Obama people were behind the leaks within his administration, doubled down on that point in a Fox and Friends interview that aired on Tuesday. Trump was asked in the interview whether he believed former President Barack Obama was behind the organizing against Trump's administration. I also think it's politics. That's the way it is, Trump replied. Trump then responded to a comment regarding the conduct of past presidents who would not comment or interfere with their successors. Well, you never know exactly what's happening behind the scenes. You're possibly right, but you never know. But I think President Obama's behind it because his people are certainly behind it, Trump continued. Leaks possibly come from that group. You know, some of the leaks which are really very serious leaks because to national security. But I also understand that's politics. And in terms of him being behind things, that's politics, and it will probably continue, he added. Where Trump called the leaks a disgrace and very dangerous thing for this country. Trump noted that he may seek the source of the leaks in a different way than White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, who over the weekend checked staffers' phones in an attempt to crack down on leaks. Differently than Sean, but Sean handled it his way, and I'm okay with that, Trump said, noting that he would have sat down one-on-one with the staffers. Trump, who did not watch the Academy Awards because it conflicted with the White House governor's ball, commented on the frequent attacks he received from attendees during the events. Seems like the other side is using badly. They always pull the race card. I've watched it for years. I watched it against Ronald Reagan. I've watched it against many other people, he said. And they're always like putting out the race card. In fact, I did much better than many other Republicans in the last election. I did much better with Hispanics. I did much better with African Americans. Or I wouldn't be sitting here, he added. That with all of the fake news coverage, he would not attend the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. Over the years, mistake, I fully understand when they hit you, but when they make stories up, when they create sources, sometimes they don't have sources, the sources don't exist. Sometimes they do exist, all sources, but I do believe that a lot of the sources are made up, Trump said. I believe a lot of the stories are pure fiction. They just pull it out of the air. All of that being said, it would be better if I didn't do the dinner. That doesn't mean I'm not going to it next year, but I just thought it would be better if I didn't do it this year, he added. Article is off of allnewspipeline.com, and it says Civil War commences. Liberals rip roads as Trump unites the nation. While the media, left and right, given President Trump's a thumbs up for his address to joint session speech last night, with even one-third Democrats describing President Trump as specific and knowledgeable, it is the reaction of the progressive liberal Democrat politicians on the floor last night that should be particularly concerning to all Americans. There were a number of examples being highlighted this morning from the liberal female politicians laughing like children on a playground while making thumbs down gestures to Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the newly appointed deputy chair of the DNC after losing his bid to become the chair, Keith Ellison, refusing to stand during an ovation for Karen Owens, the widow of fallen Navy SEAL Ryan Owens, after Trump offered a tribute. This was noticed by multiple people on social media who referenced the disrespect at the time, not only for Owens, but for law enforcement and the father of a child killed by illegal immigrant, one of which was Chief Content Officer for the IJR, who stated sobbing widow of slain Navy SEAL receives 2 minutes standing ovation. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Keith Ellison stay firmly seated, no claps. As for the record, Karen Owens had 2 ovations. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Ellison stood for her intro. Emotional 2-minute one, they did not stand. While those examples simply show the sheer pettiness liberal portion of the Democratic Party, the most concerning reaction, or lack thereof, to which speaks directly to the lack of respect for Americans for the job they were elected to do, which is to represent the Americans in their states that voted them into office, was my job is not to represent the world. My job is to represent the United States of America. As can be seen above, after that line, the Democratic representatives of the House did not stand and applaud, refusing to applaud in areas where one side does not ideologically agree is nothing new. It is almost time-honored tradition, allowing their base to see that they did not agree. But considering the very oath of office these representatives take when elected, states clearly I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God. It is seriously disturbing to see them basically admit they do not agree with that particular statement. A refusal to stand and applaud Trump's immigration statement is understandable, considering Democrats are on the opposite side of the spectrum, or his terrorism stance, again, for the same reasons. In fact, any interest to which there is an ideological difference is a chance to make a silent statement to their supporters by refusing to stand and applaud. But that one statement, one to which the president, members of the Senate, and the House should always publicly be on the same side of, shows that Democrats do not agree that this is an elected official's duty and obligation to put their citizenry first. That, ladies and gentlemen, has the potential to cost Democrats the entire moderate segment of their party in order to appease the radical left portion of their party. The context, the meaning, and the message given there cannot be overstated. After Trump's speech last night, liberals' darling Van Jones, now famous for using the term whitelash on election night in reference to why he thought Trump won the presidential election, did the unthinkable in the eyes of the progressive liberal portion of the Democratic Party when he said the following, according to the video below and transcript from Fox News. And it says, well, that have a lot of reasons to be frustrated with him, to be fearful of him, and to be mad at him, Jones said. But that was one of the most extraordinary moments we have ever seen in American politics, period. And he did something extraordinary for the people who have been hoping that he would become unifying, hoping that he might find some way to become presidential. They should be happy with that moment. Jones said Trump's critics, who might be hoping he remains decisive cartoon, should be worried after that speech. That thing you just saw him do, if he finds a way to do that over and over again, he's going to be there for 8 years, Jones stated, adding that he believed much of Trump's speech was counterfactual. He did something tonight that you cannot take away from him. He became president of the United States. While reactions varied over that statement, with some conservatives reminding Van Jones that Trump became president on January the 20th of 2017 when he was inaugurated, the basic message of his statement was clearly understood and caused a massive backlash progressively liberal faction of the party, with brutal attacks against him, including, but not limited to, the one below, grabbed from trending Twitter phrase, Van Jones, where he was called drunk, gullible, and accused of being corrupted and an idiot. People saying he is dead to them now, a sellout, to just name a few of the least offensive statements while going through the trending page, which included the following graphic. And there's a picture of him that says, not a journalist. Van Jones is just another House Negro for Trump, the GOP, CNN, and corruption. He gave an opinion that wasn't full of hatred. Liberals turned against him. Snap, that quickly. He isn't the only one, though. As we noted that liberal pundit Gayle King stated, he said from the beginning he was going to speak from his heart, and I certainly think he did that. CBS this morning, to which commentators told her she was gullible and that she drank Trump love potion. ABC News chief White House correspondent said, this is at his most presidential, his most effective speech yet. And the responses are once again full of vitriol, asking him, were you ever a real journalist? And one asking if this was Carl's way of sucking up to make sure you retain your seat at the press White House or press secretary White House briefings. Just high right now. Others include accusing the media of kissing Trump's ass. In and of itself is pretty funny considering all the negative coverage the outlets these same pundits work for have consistently written about Trump. but they cannot dare ever say anything positive or they get attacked by progressives. While the examples above show the amount of demented loathing aimed directly at anyone, especially anyone considered a liberal that dares say anything, even seemingly complimentary about Trump, the back and forth between known Trump critic Chris Cillizza from Washington Post and frothing at the mouth liberals after he dared offer objective opinions about Trump's speech by saying Trump is never going to be a brilliant orator, but this speech is the best I've seen in him. Up by stating, I thought this was the best speech Trump has given since he became candidate in June of 2015. And President Trump's speech to Congress was a very good moment for him, objectively. Shows the level of inter-party bickering it has come to. Cillizza was called an easy mark, to which he responded, I ask again, though, why can't Trump be praised for delivering a good speech, full stop? Cillizza then followed up with the poll results showing 54% of Democrats called Trump's speech presidential. As an interesting side note, it appears that when Cillizza first saw the prepared remarks that Trump would say, my job is not to represent the world, my job is to represent the United States of America, he predicted that this is a line lots of people, Democrats and Republicans, will applaud, showing he massively overestimated liberal politicians that attended the speech. While I cannot feel much sympathy for those liberals that are discovering what Trump supporters have been noticing or noting since Trump announced his candidacy, because they themselves, being part of the mainstream media, have instigated much of the unreasonable attitudes they are now facing for having an opinion that doesn't walk in lockstep with progressives. It might be helpful going forward now that they have seen it for themselves, perhaps. The reason the Democratic Party cannot seem to regroup and converge on a message is because they are divided within their own party amidst a civil war of their own making, with liberals attacking more moderates or more moderate Democrats, and their abject hatred and vitriol is now being witnessed by more objective portion of their party, which is costing them support from those that see how unreasonable they have become. As the liberal members not standing and applauding the assertion that Trump's job to represent America, which should also be their job, the Daily Wire succinctly underscores the bottom line when they write, no wonder Democrats aren't connecting with Americans. Their hatred for Trump is stronger than their love for their country. I would add one thing to that. Their hatred for Trump is also destroying their whole party from within. And there is video here of Trump's full speech at the joint session, if you want to pull it up and take a look at it, if you haven't seen that. And says the father of teen killed by illegal immigrant reacts to the speech. There is a video of that as well. And there's another video here. Is a video from Doug Weed giving his objective opinion on President Trump's speech to the joint session. So if you want to see those, you can pull that article up and take a look at that. The next one I have is off of Politico.com. And it says, Holder says Obama is ready to roll. Close to making his public reappearance in politics, his friend and former Attorney General Eric Holder said on Thursday. Holder said he's been talking to the former president about ways, including fundraising and interacting with state legislators, that could help a new National Democratic Redistricting Committee, which Obama asked Holder to chair last year. He's coming, Holder said, speaking to reporters at a briefing for the new group, and he's ready to roll, he says. Throughout, Holder said Obama will be a more visible part of the effort. Holder also predicted that the usual pattern of the party in the White House, losing state legislative seats in off-year elections, would hold next year, but I expect we'll see that on steroids with President Trump. The NDRC is looking to be intensified central force for Democrats to tackle their disadvantage in gerrymandering. The mission is to direct resources into winning targeted state elections, pushing ballot initiatives for nonpartisan district drawing commissions and wage legal challenges to existing maps. The hope is that this would put Democrats in a stronger position in state houses, but also in the U.S. House of Representatives. If districts are drawn, accurately represent the distribution of the popular vote, citing statistics that showed Republicans winning 49% of the vote in those elections, but getting 55% of the seats in the 2016 elections. A top election lawyer who's advising the group said that in addition to joining existing challenges to state laws, they're already prospecting for states where they could file new lawsuits, predicting they'll file more before the end of 2017. Holder acknowledged that the work in the courts has gotten more difficult with Jeff Sessions now in his old job running the Justice Department. He called the department's new decision to scrap a challenge to in Texas on Monday disheartening, but said that while it would be good to have the Justice Department on our side, it doesn't mean that the argument can't be made and can't be made well. This is really a battle for democracy, Holder said. The notion that people are denied their ability to cast a meaningful vote, it's inconsistent with those, or I'm sorry, it is inconsistent with who we say we are, inconsistent with what we say our democracy is about. Off of Liberty Writers just responded to the Oscars with 6 simple words that'll get it turned off next year. President Trump did an exclusive interview with Breitbart News and decided to weigh into the real reason that this year's Oscars were a total failure. Simple. The Oscars suck because Hollywood obsessed on politics. They attacked him and forgot to put on a good show. And here's his quote. It says, "I think they were focused so hard on politics that they didn't get the act together at the end," President Trump said. "It was a little sad. It took away from the glamour of the Oscars. It didn't feel like evening. I've been to the Oscars. There was something very special missing. And then to end that way was so sad. Ain't that the truth?" Look at how petty Jimmy Kimmel looked. They really think that our president is an idiot. So very sad. And there's a video of Kimmel that says, "Let's turn the Oscars off next year. If they can't recognize that they don't speak for the people of the United States anymore, then they don't get our advertising dollars. It's already happening. This was the least watched Oscar in 8 years." So there you have that. The next one is also off of Liberty Writers, and it says, W. Bush just broke. Look what sick thing he just admitted to. The man responsible for giving President Obama a supermajority in the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives bashed Donald Trump. Yeah, George W. Bush attacked, whoops, sliding around here. George W. Bush attacked Trump over his travel ban from terror states. This guy is such a rhino. Doesn't think the enemy is the media. Bush says power is addictive and we need an independent media to hold people like me to account. He sounds a lot like Hillary Clinton. George W. Bush said to Matt Lauer on Today on Monday. He said, "The bedrock of our freedom, a bedrock of our freedom is the right to worship freely." And I understood right off the bat, Matt, that an ideological conflict and people who murder the innocent are not religious people. According to Breitbart.com, Bush then said that we were currently fighting a war on terror in retreat. Yeah, this coming from the guy that got us into 2 wars at once. Why is George W. Bush lying too? And people who murder the innocent are not religious people. Bush said he has not seen ISIS. They are very Islamic. Bush really showed his true colors here. And there is a video, if you want to pull it up and watch that. It says, "Why is George W. Bush making the rounds and expressing his doubt in the decision of our current president? This man is as much a part of the establishment that we took down on November the 8th, 2016, as Hillary is." George W. Bush, the article says, is George W. Wuss, is not to be trusted. The bitchy Bush family does not want to make America great again. Bush kept his mouth shut for 8 years. Now that Trump's in office, he decides to speak up. Help us get this out there. The next article is off of Liberty Writers. Mattis just gave President Trump a secret weapon that will destroy ISIS once and for all. Donald Trump made a lot of great decisions when hiring his cabinet, but the best by far was Secretary of Defense James Mattis. Well, now Mattis has done something that the loser Obama said was impossible. Earlier today, Mattis delivered to Donald Trump a new top secret plan from the Pentagon with instructions on how the United States can completely eradicate ISIS from the face of the earth in less than a year. It looks like the United States are finally ready to play real ball with Obama's four squads, and they are in for the whooping of a lifetime, thank God. The plan is not yet finalized, according to Navy Captain Jim Davies, but shows great promise. It is expected to allow for more ground troops to be sent into Syria to combat ISIS directly instead of simply sending money and weapons to various Syrian rebel groups and Iraq for them to use. According to General Joe Dunford, the plan may see the Pentagon take a more aggressive stance than simply taking out ISIS. He told a Washington audience last week, "This is not about Syria and Iraq, it's about trans-regional threat. In this particular case, we're talking about ISIS, but it's also Al-Qaeda and other groups that present a trans-regional threat. All of us who have participated in these conflicts over the last 15 years realize that anything we do on the ground has to be in context of political objectives or it's not going to be successful." So there you have it. Despite the Democrats claiming beating ISIS is impossible, Trump does have a plan, and it looks like it's a great one. The final article that I have, for it to come up, here we go. Deep State War. Russian officials murdered or found dead since Election Day. Russian diplomats seem to be endangered species, as 7 officials have been found dead under mysterious or unexplained circumstances just since Election Day. And although any link remains provable, the death certainly provoke a number of questions. And each one of these, and then it gives like a dissertation after each one about it. And I'm not going to go through all that. If you're interested in that, you can pull that up and read it all for yourself. I'm going to stumble through their names. Sergei Kybov, and there was Andrei, and the third one is Peter Polshakov. The fourth one is Oleg Arovakin. The fifth one is Andrei Malalin. The sixth one is Alexander Katakin. Is Vitaly Churkin. And then the article says, according to the New York Times on February the 20th, Russian government, that's about him. Let's see. We'll get past that. There we go. It says, what, if anything, this growing Russian diplomat body count actually means might never be fully known, but many suspect the deaths since a overt war between the deep state and Russia, particularly as hostilities continue mostly unabated, as a shift in power away from the alien imperialist U.S. empire gathers speed. Whole comments on this. I'll let you read them. One of them, just for an example, says the CIA has never been so busy. Another one says, looks like Hillary and the Clinton machine are still at work. And there's a whole bunch of them here if you want to pull them up and read them. I just found that there had been 3. I didn't realize there had been 7. So 7 of Russian officials murdered or found dead since Election Day. My. So now I'll remind you once again, live show, 8 o'clock tonight. We have a good time. We have a chat room, and you never know who's going to drop by. So, come on, come all. Able to say or do either. That can get pretty entertaining. So that's all I have for you this morning. Here, give it a thumbs up. Don't be afraid to let me know. Share it on your social media so everybody gets to enjoy all this. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that. That way you'll stay informed.